throw your life away.
The end is nigh. Lightning's reign over Final Fantasy has lasted nearly 4 years, and it's finally about to end. Instead of building upon Final Fantasy XIII's foundation like XIII-2, Lightning Returns takes an entirely different approach. It features a complex battle system that requires you to be on point at all times, but the story is laughable, even painful to sit through. The 13 games were convoluted before, but Lightning Returns adds yet another thick layer of incomprehensible nonsense. The game feels less like a fitting conclusion, and more like the runt of the litter.
I know you haven't changed, 'cause you can't.
Lightning has 7 days to collect as many souls as possible before the world is destroyed and then reborn. Initially, the constant ticking of the clock is stressful since it works against typical RPG impulses. Want to explore every inch of a city? Too bad, you don't have time. Similarly, it's difficult completing every single quest since many of them need to be done at specific hours.
I want to talk to you. I think that you have it backwards.
Or at least, it's supposed to be difficult. One of Lightning's acquired special abilities lets her stop the clock, freezing time for a few minutes. This chronostasis consumes a resource called EP, but you can easily refill the gauge by defeating enemies. It's not hard getting into a rhythm where you use chronostasis, fight a few battles while moving toward your objective, then stop time again. In theory, the ever-present time limit is supposed to instill urgency, but once you've figured out this trick, it hardly matters.
No one cares about anything or anyone.
The impending apocalypse is also undermined by how mundane nearly every quest is. It's like Lightning Returns took many of the worst parts of MMOs and stuck them in a single game. In one quest, Lightning has to run around an entire city looking for 13 clocks just to see if they're working. In another, she has to herd sheep into a corral.
I see. So the sheep were terrorized by the occurrences of the night.
The main quests are a little bit more involved, with dungeons to explore, puzzles to solve, and challenging bosses to fight. Unfortunately, Lightning can't just stick to the main course, since every quest Lightning finishes off earns her a boost in stats, which means more health, attack power, and so on. The more optional stuff you ignore, the more difficult the later sections of the game will be, so you're forced to lower yourself to the role of an errand girl to have a fighting chance.
But you're gonna have to move fast to get them all.
It's also tough to gauge your strength, since you could be slicing through regular enemies like butter, only to get 15 minutes into a boss fight and realize your stats just aren't high enough. Lightning Returns trades one form of grinding for another. Instead of fighting countless battles for experience points, you're stuck making one delivery after another.
You're going to need to get more fireworks from the others too, right? If that's the plan, you'd better be on your way.
With all of the running around, you'd hope the locales would at least be interesting. But while the 4 hubs you explore are certainly much larger than anything seen in 13 or XIII-2, they feel barren. Yuznan and Luxurion are supposed to be bustling cities, but there really isn't that much going on. The worst area is the Dead Dunes, an endless sea of sand that feels like a whole lot of nothing. You'd think the third part of a trilogy would look much better than its predecessors, but overall, the game looks noticeably worse.
I'm afraid that this is your stop.
Lightning Returns' saving grace is its battle system. Unlike the previous 2 games, which had players controlling a group of 3, Lightning is generally all by her lonesome. At any point during combat, she can instantaneously switch to one of 3 schemata, which essentially amounts to a customizable class. Schemata also turn Lightning into a doll, but whether or not the varying outfits match your personal taste, it's the clothes that make the Lightning.
Your man went and dumped you, so you want to take it out on some beasties.
In the end, utility trumps fashion. Each schemata has its strengths, like high physical damage or the rare ability to evade. Schemata typically have at least one inherent skill that can't be changed, and the remaining slots can be used for whichever abilities you'd like. You can also add different weapons and accessories to each of the 3 equipped schemata, reinforcing the strong element of customization. What makes this system so interesting is that it's hard to completely cover your bases. Maybe you're giving up debuffs in favor of elemental attacks or trading heavy strikes for better defense. Rather than creating a catch-all that works in every situation, Lightning Returns requires adaptation and compromise.
You're so eager to die.
The fights themselves are even better. Lightning Returns plays like an action game, encouraging precise timing. Guarding at just the right moment, for example, can completely negate all damage. If you time your button presses appropriately while attacking, you can cancel animations, getting your various abilities out more quickly. So many RPGs are about pure preparation, so it's great to see one that emphasizes execution just as heavily. The battle system may be forward-thinking, but the story is about as backwards as it gets. Lightning has become a servant of the god Buenavelza, and if she does what he wants, he promises to reunite her with her long-lost sister, Sarah. What starts as an understandable premise slowly arrives at a point where it's almost impenetrable.
No man can stare into the darkness for so long and survive with his soul intact.
By far, the worst part of the story, though, is Lightning herself. She's an emotionless husk, seemingly detached from everything going on around her, with a low, monotone voice that saps the energy out of every scene. The story tries to make sense of Lightning's lifelessness by saying holy servitude destroyed her empathy, but it doesn't make the dull demeanor any easier to put up with.
It's called miracles.
Lightning Returns feels almost pointless, amounting to little more than an excuse to dress up the heroine in different outfits and beat the crap out of things. There's not much payoff for those that have been faithful since the beginning, and it's so obtuse that it'll be difficult for new players to get into. The battle system is excellent and goes a long way toward redemption, but it's a great thing that belongs in a better game.
Not even God can stop it, and he isn't going to try.